All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Fighting Chance College Football Week 6 betting show, and this is a super fun, super special week for us as we have another guest on, our second guest of the entire show since we started it. And this guest is a special guest to my heart here, one of my really, really good friends. His name is Shawn White. You can see him in the bottom there all by himself. Dumpster Fire Fan is his Twitter because, as you see, he's a fan of the Jaguars, so he pretty much puts it out there, even though they're pretty good and they have already made me some money so far this season. So Shawn, for those that do not know him, haven't followed him, avid NFL and college bettor, just like me, just like Dan. He's also one of the best golf handicappers I've actually ever met, which is pretty phenomenal because golf is an extremely hard sport to handicap, and he does really well with outright winners, top 10s, top 20s. So follow him on Twitter to get those picks, and then obviously to get all of his NFL and college picks as well. So Shawn, welcome to the show, man. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it from you and Dan. I've known Kayvon for years, so this is going to be good. I'm really excited to be on and pick these games with y'all. So thanks a lot.
No doubt, man. We're excited to have you. So, without further ado, let's pull up these records, which are getting better slowly. It started off pretty rough, but we're slowly getting better here as a season recap. You want me to pull it up?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so last week, Dan, if you want to go through how you did last week, and then I'll touch on it real quick, and then let's get going.
Yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn, but 3 weeks in a row of 2-1 on the show. I'll bring it back down to earth though with my personal card, which was kind of a dumpster fire last week. I mean, I was like -7 units last week. Full disclosure, it was absolutely abysmal. Thanks, Georgia, for not covering the first quarter or the game against a pathetic team. I think Missouri's right near the bottom of the SEC. Sorry, Missouri fans. Yeah, that, and then just, the best bet of the week hit again, UTSA. I think it should have been maybe TCU, but yeah, solid week. Slowly getting some traction on this season here. Down 2.5 units on all my show plays, 7-9 records. I'm hoping to get to 500 or better this week. And I've been parlaying these 3 plays of mine, so just been missing by that last pick, right? It was Texas State actually last week, that trash play I went with that just bit me so hard. I don't like saying, I'll never bet that team again, but I would say there's a very, very sub 1% chance that I ever back Texas State in any fashion again after watching that. I actually painfully watched that game too. So yeah, we're getting there. Good week on the show, bad week personally, but I'll take it. What about you?
No doubt. Yeah, no, you're getting going a lot of 2-1s. Finally, for me, a 2-1 with a lot of 1-2s following. So I'm starting to feel some fire here after a very slow start. I hate Arkansas. The fact that Arkansas couldn't cover when they were down 28-23 going into the fourth quarter, and then they end up losing by over 20 points is like going into the fourth quarter 28-23 and then losing by that. Utah was an easy cover, and UTSA Middle Tennessee over was a very easy over as well. So we're catching some steam here. But without further ado, let's go into this week's picks. There's a lot of games, a lot of really, really good games. So what we'll do, we'll start with you, Dan. We'll go to Shawn, and then I'll wrap it up with the first round, and then we'll have some conversations in between the rounds as well. So go ahead and take it away with your first pick there.
Yeah, so my first bet this week, it wasn't my first chronological bet. Just want to say that, but it was it's going to be tomorrow night, so I want to mention that right out of the gate. I'm going to be correct this time. Last week I was talking about games at the wrong times, and I'm sorry to anyone that didn't double-check the ESPN app. So I got Memphis-Houston over 57.5 tomorrow night. Real simple for me. I'm not doing a whole unit on this one, and here's why. I'm not saying I'm not confident in it, but left tackle and left guard for Memphis listed questionable still. I think that could kind of hurt their offensive potency in terms of their quarterback having enough time in the pocket to really pick apart Houston, even though that's not too hard to do, apparently. Um, Houston's also got 2 defensive backs questionable, so it could like really be a really good thing for this over. Or if those 2 end up playing and then the left tackle and left guard don't play, it could kind of be a slight ding to this. So that's why I wanted to hold up at 0.75 of a unit. Kind of weird, but that's what I did. Yeah, this opened at 58, so it's only gone down a half point. I think this is the only play of mine that's like against sharp money a little bit, maybe. Both teams are over 95% red zone scoring this season percentage. So I like them on finishing drives and getting points on the board every time they get inside that 40-yard line of the opposing team. That's what that's all about. Plays per game, Houston's 46 in the country. It's better than middling. Memphis 42nd, a little better than that even. The total offense, Houston again is kind of middling, 76. Memphis better than I thought, inside of the top 50. And they that Memphis defense, they did have that game against a death sentence against Mississippi State, which really kind of hurt their numbers. But then they had 4 games against weaker competition, so kind of hard to like put too much into it. But at the same time, I like everything about this. The biggest thing for me, it comes down to the pace, and that's what I'll close it out with. Memphis is 28th in the country in pace. Play every 23.4 seconds. Houston, every 25.26 seconds. They're 23rd in the country in pace. So I feel like no matter who's in or out, this game's going to have a really healthy right pace for an over with teams that finish and put points on the board, bottom line. So give me the over.
Yeah, that's over 57.5 there. Houston's a really weird team. I mean, they were supposed to be the Cincinnati's of the A10 this year, the whatever they're in. Is it the A10? Yeah, the 8, right?
AAC?
What?
Is it the AAC?
AAC. I don't know why I used to call it the A10. Whatever. They were the they were supposed to be that, and they've been terrible. I mean, they've been like really, really bad this year. So I feel you on that. All right, Shawn, let's go to you, man. First pick on the show here. What are you going with?
So I had to do a little home cooking. I'm from North Carolina, so I had to go with a little bit of this UNC game in Miami, and I like UNC plus 3.5 against Miami. Honestly, the way Miami's been playing, I don't see how they could be favored in anything. That's a weird thing for me. The next thing is UNC's offense. They're going to score on most people. They had that down game against Notre Dame a couple weeks ago, but I feel like they're going to have they had their get right game against Virginia Tech, coming back scoring over 40. I think they can put up an easy 40 again on Miami. And where UNC is really weak is that defense. Their defense is pretty terrible. We saw that with the App State game. We see that week in and week out. But they actually held Virginia Tech down, and I think Miami's offense is really, really struggling. I think we've got some quarterback issue going on there. I think it's a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff. We don't know if Van Dyke might transfer after this, because I could see that happening. I think Cristobal's kind of got a mess going on down in Miami, and I just really like UNC to come in and kind of put it on them this week. So that's kind of where I'm at on that UNC bet. UNC's going to score a lot of points, and Miami's not going to be able to keep up with them, even though UNC's defense lets up a lot.
Yeah, I actually am with you on this play. This is a massive game in the Coastal Division here. And the thing about this game that I think is like you're spot on about is Miami's offense. I don't know how anybody could trust Miami's offense right now. And your point about Tyler Van Dyke hitting the portal, I would if I was him. Cristobal, phenomenal recruiter, phenomenal culture guy, will get that culture organization going. But his offense, him and Texas, him and Jimbo, and even Dave Doran over here at NC State, they all need to come together for a meeting and learn how to go to modernize offense, because all 3 of these offenses are just terrible. And I don't know how they step up. And I know Virginia Tech is bad, but that defense has to get some type of at least just like excitement knowing that they held somebody to 10 points, you know? Like I thought that was impossible for I literally thought that was impossible. So even though VT's bad, I think that's got to get them going here. So I'm totally with you on that. All right, let's move to my first bet here. I'm going with an SEC showdown here. Definitely a SEC game that's going to be hidden between a lot of the other big SEC games, but sometimes the ugliest bets are the best bets in my mind. I'm going with Missouri and Florida under 55. There's a couple things for this. First of all, Missouri just had the game of the year just right out of their hands. I mean, they led Georgia for everything but 4 minutes in the game. And not only did they lead Georgia, man, they dominated Georgia. That defensive line of Missouri is a lot better than I thought. You know, Eli Drinkowitz, the head coach of Missouri, is known for his offense. His offense is terrible, but his defense is actually pretty good. Missouri's quarterback is really, really bad. If they just had a decent quarterback here, I think that they would be able to, I think they would have beaten Georgia. But the fact that they just couldn't finish drives and they kept settling for field goals, I think the same thing is going to happen in this game. I think Anthony Richardson for Florida is a little bit banged up. I don't think that that offense is playing as well as it could. And I think that Missouri's D-line is going to be able to do not just as much to Georgia because AR is going to be able to move around, unlike Stetson Bennett back there. Even though Stetson can move a little bit, I just think that they're going to be able to do enough against Florida, and I think Florida is going to be able to definitely do enough against Missouri's offense, which is really, this is the main play against a Missouri offense. I don't see 55. I just, a sleepy 12 o'clock game. Nobody's going to watch this game at all. I think it easily scrolls under 24-17 type wins, something like that. Missouri, Florida under 55 for my bet there. So as you can see, as I show here, the first round of bets, we've got Dan's got Memphis, Houston over 57.5. Shawn's got UNC plus 3.5 down in Miami. And I've got Florida, Missouri under 55. Guys, before we move on to the second round of picks, since no one's picking this game, I think we should talk about it real quick. There's a big game going on in Tuscaloosa. I mean, the networks are mad. CBS is mad because everyone circled this to be the game of the year, and Texas A&M has really just let everybody down in that category. I mean, you have people calling the Paul Feinbaum show this week. I don't know if any of you guys saw this, saying that it's cheaper to hire a hitman than it is to buy out Jimbo Fisher right now, which is absolutely incredible. What are you guys' thoughts? Do you think that Nick Saban and Alabama are purposely going to route them? They're going to run it up. And are you worried about Bryce Young being out? Dan, you can go ahead and start with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. On Alabama, what's the question?
Do you think that they're going to route them?
Depends.
Do you think that Alabama's going to route Texas A&M?
It really depends on what you consider to be a route. I mean, I'm going to be honest. On my personal card, non-show play, I have Bama for the whole game. I rate at minus 24, and I know I'm laying it, and I know there's a risk, but I looked at like Saban all time in revenge game spots, and his record against the spread is like something like 11 of the last 15 times since he's all time been at Alabama. And I don't usually get too into trends like that, but I just think this Bama defense, like you and I were texting back and forth earlier in the week, Kayvon, about this, like, is A&M even going to score in this game? And their team total is very telling right now. I was shopping for this the other night. I wanted to see something like 20-something so I could just jam the team total under on A&M.
You're not going to get that.
But you're not going to get it. You're going to see it's sitting around like 13.5 right now. But to me, that's just very telling of how elite this Alabama defense is and how piss poor pathetic this offense of A&M is. Is that even an SEC offense? What's going on? Have they figured out the quarterback situation yet?
No.
I have more questions for Jimbo and Texas A&M than I do for Saban and Alabama here. And I think Bama's going to actually end up routing them to some extent. Yeah. I think
Shawn, what do you think?
Yeah, I believe Bama's going to outright win as well. The number was kind of strange for me, so I had to stay away. And the reason why the number's strange for me is because A&M has such a good defense, and Bryce's status is kind of up in the air on me. So I can see if they get up, they can pull Bryce pretty early. That A&M offense isn't going to do anything, though, especially without Anaya Smith. They're in trouble. I mean, they have no chance of scoring like that at all. against Bama consistently. It's just that A&M defense that I think is going to have some pride because they're so talented over there. And I just don't know the status of Bryce, like I said, if he's going to be banged up, if he's even playing, really stuff like that. A&M's got to figure some stuff out there because they're paying too many people to be this bad. Let's be honest with it. And Jimbo's got to get his offense into the modern era. Let's see some motion out there. Let's see some different sets and formations. Let's not get carried by Jameis Winston basically the whole time for your career. Let's actually go out and show that we're an offensive schematic genius. It's kind of rough to watch that A&M team, especially with all the talent they have, because I'm a big talent draft scout guy.
Yeah.
That's real rough for me to watch. Just so much squandered talent on a team like A&M. But Bama's going to outright win this by a lot of points. I just don't know if that 24 is going to be perfect for it. That's where it throws me. It's too many questions to answer for that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Completely agree. Completely. I honestly think what we're all saying is like I would take Texas A&M teams total under. Like I don't care if it's below 20. I don't think that they're going to let Texas A&M score. I wouldn't be shocked if Texas A&M walks out of there with 7 points. I mean, the one thing about this that I think is fascinating, a storyline. Alabama has the biggest game of their season next week. Tennessee, dude, that's no joke of a game. And part of me wonders it's so conflicting because I really believe if it wasn't for what happened in the offseason with Jimbo and all that stuff, I think Alabama would get up. They would take Bryce out, and they would just cruise and play good defense. But because of the Jimbo thing, do you think maybe Saban says, nah, screw this. Like, we're gonna punch them, and we're just gonna destroy them. That's what I'm going to be looking for because the big game is next week. It's not this week. A&M, I'm sorry, A&M fans. It's not you guys. The big game is Tennessee next week. Hopefully they can survive LSU, but that's the big game.
Yeah, I was going to say, not to get off on a tangent, but Tennessee is prime for a letdown game against LSU this week.
You're so right.
That's right on brand for Tennessee, like right there. Look ahead to Bama. They think this is the year. And then a rough LSU team kind of goes in there on their down year and gets them this week. So watch out for that if you're a Tennessee fan, because if you're a Tennessee fan, that's kind of the letdown that you usually experience.
It really is. And dude, sharps are on LSU. I've seen that line move in LSU's favor. It worries. I want Tennessee to win because I want that undefeated matchup. But Death Valley, that place is going to be rocking. This will be a huge win. You're spot on about that, man. Like that. Yeah.
One other thing about this game that I meant to mention was, Alabama's backup quarterback
is good.
He's freaking better than probably like half of college football starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's good.
So just because Bryce doesn't play or he plays less or whatever, they got this guy to lean on too. He's going to have no problems with A&M, in my opinion. I'm not seeing that as much. I know no insult to Bryce Young, but I think that this is not going to matter too much here. I think either way, Bama's going to be in good shape. And like you said, Kayvon, they're going to keep their foot on the gas as well.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. All right, let's move on to the second round of picks here. Dan, you are up. What do you have with your second pick of the weekend?
Yeah, so going to go with the team most people haven't heard much about. This is also tomorrow night. We're going to go with San Jose State. -6.5. I don't mind playing it if it gets worse than that too. I have them winning this game pretty comfortably into the double digits. Power rankings I use got them says they should be favored by 12 points. And the big thing here for me, you've got a team. Let's see. San Jose State, they're playing who are they even playing? I don't remember.
They're playing I got you right here. Dude, you're just blindly betting. They're playing UNLV.
Yeah, that's why. UNLV,
by the way, can I also just say real quick, the division is called the American Division. That's what I just had. It's the American. I don't know why A-10 came in my mind. It's the American.
The American Athletic Conference, right?
Yeah,
AAC. Yeah. Sorry, I totally spaced that because I don't have much. I have nothing on my sheet that says shit about UNLV. So, all right, my bad. So anyways, I got San Jose State winning this by double digits. All the power rankings and models that I use pretty much have that going that way. SP Plus has it going that way. I put a lot of faith in that when all three of my sources are checking the box on that. UNLV, when they're on offense and they have the ball, they're running like easily 55% of the time. So definitely more like a run-heavy team. They're 55th in the country in terms of how much they like to run the football versus pass it. And when San Jose State inevitably gets out in front in this game, they're 20th. Their defense is 20th in opposing yards per pass attempt. So I see a lot of blocks to UNLV having much success or covering here. In short, the San Jose State defense is also 20th overall in the country, which probably would surprise a lot of people to hear that. And San Jose State also averages 5.8 yards per play of total offense, like all across the board, to 5.3 for UNLV. And then let me see if there's anything else. They're going to be 31st and also in rush yards per attempt. San Jose State is that is. So they're moving the ball pretty well no matter what the game flow is here. And I feel like UNLV really, for them, if they don't find success running the football, they're not going to have any success. So that's going to be like the handicap of this game, in my opinion. And that's why I like San Jose State so much. It was one of my first bets of the week. And again, this game's tomorrow night, so I'm not sure where it's ticking. But definitely try to grab it under 7 if you can. I like 6. I think it's sitting 6.5 still right now when I checked earlier. So yeah, 6.5 minus 6.5 San Jose State.
Nice. San Jose State minus 6.5, a 10:30 Friday night game. Nice sleepy CBS Sportsnet game. That's a good one right there. UNLV has that freaking turnover slot machine.
Oh, it's so cool.
pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. All right, yep. Shawn, let's go to you for your second round. You had UNC plus 3.5 first pick. What do you have on your second one?
Yeah, Dan, I like that play. A nice beer drinking Friday. Go out to the bars, watch a little bit of game at 10:30. I like that. But so my second bet. This is going to be one that I've been riding this team for a little bit this year. So I actually have Washington State plus 12.5 against USC. And here's
by the way, it's plus. There's some
13. My book was still saying 12.5.
There's some plus 13s out there.
Okay, well that's perfect then. So that's even better for my side. So I actually rode Washington State. I had a money line against Wisconsin when they beat them. You can talk to Kayvon about it. I've been a big Washington State proponent because of their quarterback Cam Ward. I followed him at Incarnate, and then I love the transfer with the offense coordinator and everything. So I love this Washington State offense, and it was actually their defense that carried them earlier in the year. But if you watch them these last few weeks, that offense is starting to churn a bit. The offense starting to get some traction going. Cam's starting to adjust to the speed of the game at this level. And I think they're going to be able to put up some points against the USC team that really their defense is just straight up turnovers or bust. They're going to give up points or they're going to get turnovers. And then they've played a few lower tier offenses where Oregon State was missing their best player and their tight end and things like that. It's not going to be the case. I think this is going to be a high flying, high scoring game. USC, you obviously know they're going to come in and score. Lincoln Riley has that offense rolling, those two receivers with Caleb Williams. That's going to be a high flying part. I don't think Washington State can stop USC, and I'm not sure Washington State wins the game. But that 13 number right there is way too big of a number for me to give USC's defense against an elite level college quarterback right now that's starting to get to his own and hit his stride. That's way too big of a number for me. I think they keep this close. It's going to be a shootout. I think they're both in the 40s or 50s right there against each other. Maybe a 52-45 type.
I love it. I think that number is way too high. That was one of the things that I had on my list for the show. If Shawn didn't pick that, I would have maybe picked that one. I already personally bet it. I just think it's way too high. Dude, if it wasn't for a crazy comeback by Oregon and Bo Nix, Washington State's undefeated right now. And maybe my favorite part of this play, and Shawn, we do a pod together. You know this, Dan. You know this for how much we've talked betting. One of my favorite things I love in college football is situational. Who does USC have next week? Utah. They just want to get a win and get out. They don't care if it's by 3, by 7. They don't care, dude. They just want to get out undefeated. That is their big thing right there. I think that 13 points is just huge. Personally, I hope that USC wins because I want to see an undefeated showdown between USC and Utah next week, but I will be riding the 13 points with you on that one. There's no doubt about that.
I'm going to add that to my personal card tonight when we get done.
Yeah.
I have been on team lower than the whole rest of the country on USC since before the season started. I had Fresno State circled on the calendar. We know how that ended. I've actually tried this multiple times and it hasn't gone very well, but I think this week is the week. And for all the reasons you mentioned, I'll also say that USC is the luckiest team in the country in terms of turnovers. Oh, yeah. And there is no way that they're going to make it through these next 2 weeks, let alone the whole season, without the dam breaking and the turnover regression machine just wiping them out. So it's coming. I put it in the chat here for everyone watching too.
Yeah, they've been getting turnovers. That's going to have to regress at some point.
Yeah.
I think that this will be a really fun game. The Pac-12 has a lot of fun games this weekend, which takes me to my next bet, which might be like third on the totem pole of the fun games. But as a average fan, as like crazy fans like us three are, I know you guys are going to watch a game like this. I'm pretty sure it's like a 10 p.m. game too. And I'm going with Arizona plus 14 against good old Bo Nix in Oregon. This is in Arizona. And for those that have followed the Pac-12 and followed Oregon in the past, strange things happen when Oregon visits Arizona. Even when Arizona has been a terrible team and Oregon's been good with Justin Herbert, with Marcus Mariota, they go into Arizona and they fall asleep for some reason. And Arizona has been able to cover against them numerous times after numerous times. And this time, we've got a really good Arizona team. Like this Arizona team, which, by the way, I took their team total over and at the beginning of the season, and that's already hit. This team is 3-2. They've got a really well coached, they're coached really well. They've got a pretty fun quarterback to watch who's kind of, he's not like a stud, but Jaden Deloria, he knows how to sling the ball. He set our Arizona record last week for the amount of yards and touchdowns he threw. This team is really fun to watch. And I just think that Bo Nix, who's been really good after that first game, like really a lot of props to Dan Lanning and the head coach. He really, after that first loss to Georgia, they could have just spiraled because it was so bad. He's turned things around. They've won every game since, but their defense gives up a ton of points. I mean, Stanford put up 28 on them last week. Washington State put up 41 on them. 14 points for a team at Arizona that's really feisty. I think that they can keep within this 14 points. I also think that, just like Shawn said with his game, I think this is going to be a super high scoring game. There's some props in this, like Arizona 13.5 team total in the first half. If you want to get really degenerate, I think they're going to, that's stuff that they'll cover easily. I don't know if Arizona can pull out the win. I am sprinkling on the money line. I'm putting a little bit on the money line just in case. It's like plus 490, but they're going to cover this game. It is way too big of a number. Bo Nix should not be getting 14 points on the road against any opponent. I don't care who it is. And this is not your old Arizona. There's a couple teams that Vegas has not caught up to. Duke is one of them. Duke is much better, and they are still not respecting the Blue Devils with the line. They should, they were favored by 2 against Virginia last week. That's ridiculous. And Arizona is the other one. Arizona is a good team. This should be like a 10-point spread, and it's a 14. Give me Arizona plus 14 at home in a night game against Oregon. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I like that play. Riding the Bo Nix roller coaster out there. Is Bo Nix going to bury you by 30, or is he going to throw the whole game away and give it to you? Who knows?
It'll be one or the other. That's so true, man. It's going to
Yeah.
literally be one or the other. He's just going to go Bo Nix off, or he's going to throw like five interceptions, and Arizona's going to win this game outright.
No, that what you say is crazy though about Oregon visiting Arizona, because years ago when they had that like Mariota, DeAnthony Thomas team and everything, they went in there on like a night game. It might have been a Friday night.
Yep.
And man, they had like 2 streakers that night. The section was going crazy. It was the like most wild game possible, and they covered that like pretty easily. It was actually a way closer game. It is weird how Oregon goes into Arizona like that. That's a funny trend you have going there. I remember that game. It's funny.
It is, man. And the same thing happened with Herbert as well, dude. Some weird stuff happens at nighttime. Those fans, it's Arizona, they party, man. Some crazy things happen there. And I'm going to be staying up to watch this game, not just because I have money on it, but I'm really excited to see what happens. Look, I give a lot of Shawn, we talked about this on our show. Dan, me and you talked about this on the pregame show, the win total show we did. We all liked Arizona. We all thought they were going in the right direction. And they've showed it. So 14, they should be able to cover this. Come on, Arizona, step up.
It's 14, yeah. I like the play, yeah. I don't know if it'll make my card, but that doesn't mean that I don't like it. I mean, it's kind of I would have to dig deeper at that. I have a hard time wrapping that's what's great about college football, though, is like stuff like that happens, whereas in that I don't want to talk about NFL or NHL, but it's just crazy how stuff like that happens. That's what makes
college football great. It's like any given Saturday. You know, the NFL, there's a lot of parity too. I mean, some crazy things happen in the NFL, but in college, it is like literally like a 20-point underdog can win outright sometimes in college. And that's what makes things great. Real shout out to the chat here. Chrissy Boyer said, I like the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Chrissy. That's my doing, by the way. I'm the one that's engineering that. Not to take all the credit here, but I appreciate that. I want to, before we go to our best bets here, by the way, so far, as we round the corner here, before we go to our best bet, Dan has Memphis, Houston, Friday night game over 57.5. His other bet is San Jose State minus 6.5, which is also a Friday night game. Yep. Sean's got UNC plus 3.5 with a coastal battle against Miami. And he also has Washington State plus 13 in a Pac-12 battle against USC. I have Missouri, Florida under 55, and Arizona plus 14 at home against Oregon. Question for you guys before we go to our best bets here. There's a lot of narrative out there of like who's going to be the 4th team in the playoff. A lot of people think Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State are locks, even though I don't know if that's the case right now because things can happen, especially since Alabama and Georgia play each other. I think Alabama could possibly lose next week if Bryce Young isn't fully healthy. So, but let's just say for argument's sakes that those 3 teams are getting in. Right now, if you had to pick a 4th team to get in, who is it going to be? I can tell you mine is Clemson. I think Clemson should be ahead of Michigan right now. I've said this over and over. The schedule that Michigan has played is criminal. They should go to jail for the schedule they played. It's such a joke of a schedule. Now they get Indiana this week. Like, come on. So I think Clemson's played a harder schedule. I think Wake is a really good team. I think State is a pretty decent team. So Clemson would be my 4th team. Sean, who would be your 4th team?
So actually, I have Clemson as well, but I want to throw Oklahoma State out there a little bit because I like what they're doing as well. Oklahoma State, I think, has a good shot, especially – I mean, if they run the table, they're in, obviously. But I think they have an actual decent shot of running the table themselves with their Sanders at quarterback, the way Gundy coaches. I like the defense still, even though they lost their D coordinator. I like Oklahoma State a lot, and I think if Georgia was to struggle a little bit and this Clemson-Oklahoma State goes undefeated, you can kiss those 2 SEC teams goodbye, in my opinion. So that's one thing that I'm looking for throughout the year. Can a Big 12 and an ACC or even a Pac-12 team go undefeated and make a real tough committee decision when it comes to a one-loss SEC team? Usually everything kind of plays out in these situations, though, where everyone ends up losing one. But that's where I'm at. I like Oklahoma State if we're not going Clemson because Clemson just has the clearest path with the ACC, to be honest. What you said about Michigan's absolutely true. Why is Big Noon there like every week, by the way?
That's my thing, man. Like, it's
at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Like the Big Ten, and Dan, we'll get to your answer just real quick. I just have to say this. there's all this talk, and I'm not a Big Ten hater. Look, I'm not like a fan of any like hardcore fan of any conference like that. But there's all this talk about the Big Ten is caught up to the SEC. The SEC doesn't have their best game of the weekend, Michigan and Indiana. Like that is the Big Ten's best game of this weekend. That's really, really bad. Ohio State, Michigan State's terrible this year, so that's got to change. So I'm glad you brought that up. And real quick on Oklahoma State here, the one good thing about Oklahoma State and the team that Dan's about to bring up, the Big 12 is good this year.
Next week.
Oklahoma State and the team that Dan's about to bring up is going to have multiple chances to get a better resume. Ewers is coming back for Texas. Oklahoma State's good, and the team that Dan's about to bring up is good. And the same with the Pac-12. So there's a lot of competition out there. I like that Oklahoma State sneaky pick. And another shout out, Darius said, me too. He likes the ticker at the bottom as well. So shout out to you, Darius. Go ahead, Dan. Who do you have?
Oh, yeah. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Thanks for coming in. So, I mean, the team that you're getting me to mention here, this is like I got to give a disclaimer. Like, this is definitely a long shot. This is definitely dark horse material, but I'm talking TCU, man. I mean, if you haven't been watching what this team is doing, you've been under a rock at this point. I mean, that offense, like, there's not many defenses that are going to slow them down very much. I mean, it's like the Alabamas, the Clemsons, maybe, the top 5-10 defenses I'd be a little scared of. But next week is huge. And I'm with you, Shawn. Like, if there's a team in the Big 12 right now for me that's going to be the team that ends up winning the Big 12, like, I really like those two teams. I think it's whoever wins that game may go on to win the Big 12. I've kind of already written Oklahoma off. I don't like what I'm seeing.
Oh, no, they're done.
They're like so done. Texas is, like, regardless what happens this week, I would kind of love it if Oklahoma beat Texas this week, because it kind of like helps the TCU a little, and it helps out Oklahoma State a bit too. So I think it makes that game next week even bigger, and it's just gonna be a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, TCU, I'm with you on Clemson. They got over the back-to-back brutal stretch of Wake and NC State. I don't remember what else is in their schedule.
You've got FSU in Tallahassee, night game next week. If Florida State knocks off NC State this week, which I don't think they will. They're really banged up right now. But if they do, I think game day will probably go to Tallahassee next week for that, because that would be a really, really – I mean, that would pretty much be for the Atlantic. But because Florida State lost to Wake. But anyways, that's going to be a huge game if Florida State can win this week. But if they get by Florida State, they're pretty much – they're run. I think they play Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's bad this year, so they're pretty much going.
Yeah, Notre Dame's not anything this year. I mean, Michigan, like, I could not agree with the two of you more. Like, their schedule alone, regardless, I don't give a shit if they run the table. I like, just give me some other teams that can prove their resume and their power rating like better than Michigan at the end of the season. A lot of teams out there with even 1 or 2 losses with a much tougher schedule, I would put them in. If I was voting, I would put them above Michigan all day. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think it comes down to like whoever wins the Big 12 is like one possibility. ACC and Pac-12, their thing is they always eat each other, right? So if the team runs I feel like in those conferences, and I'm really not biased from conference, I just know the ACC the best because it's what I grew up with. But I do think the Pac-12 or ACC, if you have a team that goes undefeated, then it'll probably be in the discussion. And right now, I think Clemson's got the best chance of that. And the other mention would be Utah, although they had that rough loss at Florida. I think I'm with you, Kayvon. If they just butt slam everybody the rest of the way, then they might have a chance to get in.
I think they would. I think if that's their only loss, and remember something the committee likes, they like when you lose early, not when you lose late. Utah lost early. Anything else you want to add to that, Shawn, before we move on?
Yeah, the Utah thing, they did lose early, but they also scheduled that game, which is also important to the committee, which Michigan did not do this year at all. And Michigan's getting no favors from that other side of the Big Ten at all because of that terrible, terrible division. I was going to say that TCU pick, you're kind of swaying me a little bit because I like it. And it's going to be funny when we talk about best bets and stuff, but that TCU pick, the offense, what you're saying is completely true because they're a true air raid now. And honestly, Quentin Johnston's their best receiver, and he barely gets the ball sometimes. So they haven't even unlocked that part of their offense, so they could be even scarier. So what you're saying is definitely true with that TCU. I think that head-to-head with Oklahoma State, isn't that crazy to think about? We have Red River this week. We've barely mentioned it at all. And you have Oklahoma State TCU next week. It's like,
I'm already
get that going. It's kind of crazy to think about this year.
Yo, that is such a good point, man. Like we are usually game days there, noon kickoff is there. We're not even mentioning that, and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of sad, man, but it is what it is. Texas is a team that will not be able to make the playoff at this point, but they're a team to watch that could play upset if Ewers comes back and plays the way he did before he got hurt. He looked really good against Alabama. If he can do that, same thing. Maybe they could play a little bit of an upset against some opponents, but I still think Texas has some issues right now. So we'll see. I think that's a really good discussion. I think those are all teams that we talked about, but one thing we agree on is, come on, Michigan, step it up. What do you got, Dan?
Oh yeah. And November 12th, TCU at Texas. I'm not one to gloat, but I do have a futures Big 12 championship ticket at like 15 to 1 or 16 to 1 on the Horned Frogs, which makes up for some of my other ones that have already bit the dust. We got a question in the chat. Is Florida sucking?
Yeah, Florida sucks. I mean, actually, I don't think it's fair to say that they suck. You know, they're a decent team. They're just like, look, for their first year head coach, they're doing they're doing all right. But Shawn, you can talk. I mean, Shawn's for those that don't know, he is a huge draft nerd. He studies these guys left and right. And I can't, his nickname you can't say anymore, but Anthony Richardson is you know, he's like compared to Cam Newton. He's somebody that a lot of people. So Shawn's been looking at him. Shawn, I mean, what do you think with Florida? Do you think that it's Anthony Richardson issue? Do you think that they just don't have enough talent? I just don't think they have enough talent around him. And I've never been that high on him anyways. I think he's a little too inconsistent throwing the ball. It's a fun watch. I just don't think he has all of his pieces there yet.
Yeah, it's a combo. Going into the season, I think a lot of people were saying they don't have the talent to compete at a high level. And then they came out and they won that Utah game, which I'll talk about a little later too. That Utah game kind of really spoiled a lot of people and really put them on a map that they weren't prepared to back up with the weeks coming since then. Anthony Richardson has a lot of work to do, man, especially as an NFL prospect. But you can tell he's a little banged up. He's not running like he usually does. So that's one thing. When you take the running out of his game, he's just an inconsistent thrower right now, which I'm sure he himself would say he needs to work on that. And obviously, I think he can. It's just Florida's just not where they need to be right now. The thing that I worry about with Richardson going forward is he probably needs another year, but the way the NFL works and his calling, he might have the tools to be that third or fourth quarterback taken. So you could see him jumping ship early. That's a little concern for me. But Florida definitely needs two recruiting classes to really get to where they're competing again in a SEC the way they are. They're just not there talent-wise. Mullen left them at a really big deficit. So they do suck this year. I am going to say that. I'll go out and say it with you, but they need to get the recruits coming in because I think Napier can do a hell of a job to get his recruits in.
Yeah. I think Napier is gonna instill a good culture there, and
I do too.
And I think they're gonna get there. They're such a good, they're a very storied program. You think about guys like Emmitt Smith that went there, like all-time greats in the NFL. I mean, the Swamp is legendary for a reason. They'll be back.
Yeah, they've got a good head coach. All right, we have another question. We'll get to that, Darius, after our best bets.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and get our best bets going. Dan, you are up first with your favorite play of Week 6. Those that are tuning in, this is the Fighting Chance College Football Week 6 betting show. My guy, Dan Hickman, Dan H720, myself, Kayvon _sports, and Shawn White, my good friend at Dumpster Fire Fan, joining us along for the ride here. So, Dan, go ahead. What do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to roll right with it. Let's keep it purple. I might have to buy my first purple T-shirt of my life. I mean, other than the one for my alma mater. It's a long story. But actually, that was a gray shirt with a little bit of purple, so I still don't call it a purple T-shirt. But TCU is going to make me buy a purple T-shirt by the end of the season. I'm calling it right now. So I'm gonna take the Horned Frogs here, -6.5 right now. I also got the team total over 37.5 at -115 on DraftKings yesterday. So shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook on that one. Best odds you'll find on that team total anywhere, at least at that time, unless it's moved a bit. So it's actually 2 plays. I like them equally. If you're looking for one play in that game and you only have one spot left on the card, just look at them and find the best odds. Like at -6.5 is -110, for example, and 37.5 is like maybe goes to -120. Then maybe just grab the spread at -6.5 for just an example of what you would do there. All right. So TCU, they have thoroughly established themselves at this point, almost to the midway point of the season officially, as an elite offense. They're leading in rush yards per play. They're the second overall most potent total team offense in all of the land. Second to only who? Do you guys want to guess?
Second in total offense?
Yeah, you want to guess who's number 1?
Ooh, is it USC?
No.
Yeah, that changed after that Oregon State game.
Yeah, that Oregon State game. Wait, I think I can get this. I want to get this.
All right.
So they're in total offense.
Total cumulative offense. Yeah, this is per teamrankings.com is where I get this stuff, in case you're ever wondering.
Is it Kansas?
Hell no.
I thought maybe it could. Yo, Kansas offense is pretty good, man.
I'll pull it up in a sec. I think it's.
Sean, what's your guess?
Top 20.
I was just saying, here's the conference.
It's I think it's Big Ten. That's
Ohio
gonna
State.
give it away. Yeah.
Okay.
I gave it away.
See, there's the Big Ten's issue. Well, I don't even think of Ohio State because they haven't played anybody. Like I can't even get it in my. But go ahead. That was a good question.
Yeah.
That was good trivia.
Yep. So, also Duggan is just an awesome quarterback. I can't say enough good things about the way he's playing. I mean, he's the number 1 rated quarterback in the whole country for a reason. I know they haven't played like the gauntlet of the toughest teams yet and all this. You can definitely try to poke some holes in that, and that's fine if you want to do that. But let's talk about KU for a second. Like, yeah, sure, what they're doing has been impressive offensively too, in its own right. But what they're doing defensively, the opposite. I mean, they are. Let me see. You're going to have a team that's second in total offense against a defense that's 62nd. That's only seen Tennessee Tech, West Virginia, Houston, Duke, and Iowa State. They haven't seen an offense like this. I think they're going to get absolutely just wiped by this air raid. And then when KU has the ball, this is the part of the handicap I think is the most overlooked part. The TCU defense has not been bad at all. They might surprise some people. It's 48th overall in the country defensively, so top 50. They're only allowing 22 points a game. And KU, in case you were wondering, that was a good guess. Kayvon, they're 12th overall in the country offensively right now, but you saw their schedule. We could look at the TCU schedule and probably say some good and bad things. I mean, say what you want about Oklahoma, but I mean, the dismantling last week
was impressive.
I know Oklahoma is not the usual Oklahoma. No insult to Sooners fans, Sooner Nation, but yeah, it's definitely not their year. But I mean, the way TCU flattened them last week and the way they've been playing this whole season, and the fact that at this point, I think KU has become a little bit of a public darling. And so I'm kind of going to go against that this week. I don't think people are really – I mean, they're starting to figure out TCU, but I still don't think that the books have fully adjusted to how good this team is yet. And I think -6.5 is downright disrespectful to TCU. I think they should be double-digit favorites on the road, and I have them winning this game by 14 to 17 points.
Wow.
If you put a gun to my head.
That's a big time pick right there. I was actually gonna think about taking Kansas on that side. The way you laid out the defense part on it, that actually makes a lot of sense. I do think Kansas's offense is still going to move the ball. That's just I think Kansas is going to be able to hang there. I really see this going one of two ways. Either Kansas wins this in a close one, because they have game day there. They get up. This is their time game. And TCU maybe has the look ahead with Oklahoma State. So I could see that a little bit. Yeah. But the way you actually laid that out, I could definitely see TCU routing them, which would be the other way it goes. They either rout them or they lose. I think that's how this is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that if I was to play it, I would play TCU team total over. I actually I think it's going to be a very high scoring game. Yes. I would actually consider playing the over in the game, but it's moved up so much.
Oh, it's like 70.
It's like 70 now. It wasn't like 68, and I'm an idiot. I didn't jump on it. I was like, oh, we'll see. I went back and looked the other day. It's up to 70, and I was like, my goodness. No. But I think it's the right move. I think it's going to go over, and I think that. Yeah. Listen, I think TCU is the better team. I was on Iowa State last week against Kansas, and they did everything but win that game. They should have won that game. They dominated every stat in the game. They missed 3 field goals, and they went for it 2 other times on 4th and 1, and couldn't get it. That was just a disgusting game by Iowa State. I think that Kansas will lose, but I don't know if they'll lose by the 7 because of just the atmosphere, the home game. I think Kansas is actually a really good team, but I do think TCU is better. If I had to pick one, it'd be the TCU team total over or the over in the game. But I think that's a little too high now. I think it's going to be a really fun, high scoring game. Like I can't believe I'm saying it, but you need to be in front of your couch for TCU Kansas. Like you
have to be.
Yeah.
If you're not watching this game this week, you're doing it all wrong as a college football fan.
No doubt about it. All right, Shawn, let's move to your best bet of college football week 6. My man, what do you have?
So I actually have Utah minus 3.5 against UCLA. Utah being favored right here is definitely the right side. I think they're going to blow them out. I think they're going to blow the doors of UCLA this weekend. I think UCLA is one of the more overrated teams in the country. You look at their schedule; they haven't really played anyone. They're celebrating small victories after games. I don't love that at all. They're not getting anyone showing up to the Rose Bowl hardly. And I mean, they might show out for Utah, but that's still not a home.
I hope so.
That's not a home field advantage in any way, shape, or form. Let's talk about Utah for a second. I had them big against Florida, and then they went down, and Kayvon had made a point on the show that I didn't take into account. He talked about the swamp being a tough place to play, and I took it as, the fans are kind of crazy. I didn't take into account humidity because I'm from here. I don't really think about it. Utah had never felt anything like that, man. They didn't know what to do in that Florida heat out there, and you could tell they were struggling. They were gassed on the sideline. It was a tough game for them. They didn't have a great game plan against AR. I think they're gonna have a better one against UCLA this time. And I think Utah's kind of hitting on all cylinders. They know for them to make the playoff, which was what their goal was coming into this, they've got to blow the doors off people, and that's UCLA and USC. They've got to do it these 2 weeks. And I think they're going to start out strong and just do this against a UCLA team that I think is way overrated. I have them power rated way down, but they're 5-0. They're 5-0 against bad teams. So I really like this Utah team to just beat the brakes off of them, to be honest.
Wow. I'll tell you what, man. I think that there will be, unfortunately, Utah travels. I think there will be a ton of Utah fans at this game, which is sad, man, because this should be a game that is packed. I'm not saying sold out because that place holds like 90,000 people, which is insane. But I mean, dude, it's a high-end Pac-12, 2 undefeated teams. Like, I will be so disappointed if I turn on my TV and there's not a ton of UCLA fans there, but I don't think it's going to be, which is really unfortunate. Shawn, I think you're on the right side here.
Yeah, agreed.
This is what, and I've been using this word with Utah the whole time. Utah needs to win sexy to get into the playoff. I keep saying they got to win sexy if they want a chance. This is their first chance since Florida. Oregon State, good team, fun team, all that stuff. This is their first actual chance since Florida to show the committee that they can beat up on ranked teams. They've got to blow the doors out if they want a chance. And I like DTR, but I mean, he's been there for like 6-7 years. It feels like. I just think that this is in history. This is a game where Chip Kelly usually ends up losing, unfortunately. That's just kind of what happens. Utah's the better coach team. Utah's the more physical team. Utah should win this game. They should. Yeah. Like, if they don't, and they should win by double digits. If they don't, it's going to be pretty disappointing.
Totally agree with all the above. I'm probably going to slip that onto my card tonight. I love it.
Too. Yeah,
I've been low on UCLA for a while, even when they were like pretty good, like last season, maybe season before that. I didn't really buy into them as much as other people did. The quarterback can run and throw. He's definitely a dual threat. Dolan Thompson, can never remember his name.
Yeah.
Dolan Thompson,
yeah.
Getting his PhD in quarterbacking.
Yeah. I just think Utah is like gonna dominate the trenches here also. And I think that's where UCLA is gonna be kidding themselves. Like, you think you're gonna actually play with these guys? Like, I am with you, Kayvon. I will be very disappointed if I turn this game on third, fourth quarter and it's like a 1-score game. I will be like, what in the actual hell is going on here? But Utah, no excuses. You should definitely come in and blow their doors off. Absolutely. Yeah. Easy cover should be.
No doubt. I'm with you on that one, Shawn. I like that bet a lot. All right, let's go to my best bet to round it out here. I am going with a degenerate special. I mean, this is a big time degenerate special, and I just can't help myself sometimes. I see these and I just I snap. So I am going with Appalachian State -10 in the first half. Okay, this is the ultimate degenerate special. But hear me out, guys. They're playing Texas State, which is such a bad football team. I mean, they couldn't even cover against James Madison, who just got to the FBS level this year. And James Madison was 21-point favorites, and Texas Tech couldn't even cover that. App State is off a bye, so they've had 2 weeks to plan for this terrible Texas State team, and I think Texas State has mailed it in. I think that they are in the category of one of the worst football teams in college football. I mean, they are really, really bad. App State knows that. The reason why I don't want to go full game is because in these type of games, these smaller conference games, you just never know what happens at the end. But it makes so much sense for the first half because they're coming off a bye. Texas State is really, really bad. I think App State is going to make it a purpose to clamp it on the first half, to just come out with all their scripted plays. They're going to really do their thing in the first half, and they might even cover the full game, to be fully honest. But I just think the best way to go for this is App State -10 first half. By the way, I've seen that this is starting to tick up. I started to see a lot of 10.5s around places and stuff. So I would get this as soon as you can. I wouldn't be surprised if by kickoff it's up to 11.5. I mean, this should not be 10. They should be up easily by double digits. I mean, by 2 touchdowns easily going into halftime. I cannot stress how bad Texas State is and what App State can do off a bye. They're a really well-coached team. They know how to come off a bye and hammer it up. I wish I could have given you guys a more fun game, but sometimes you just got to win, and this to me is an automatic winner, even though anything can happen in college football. So I shouldn't say automatic winner, but this to me is a really good chance of covering App State -10 first half. Let's get to a chat. Let's get to a question in the chat here before we get out of here. Darius asked us, and again, thank you guys so much for all your comments, for listening. We really, really appreciate you guys. We asked what games you guys want us to talk about, and Chrissy made a funny joke and said New Mexico, and then she said just kidding, and there was a good joke there because we can't.
I'm not going to talk a little bit of football. Sorry.
But Darius asked about NC State, and I actually am glad about this because this is an interesting topic that I wanted to bring up, and I know Shawn has some strong thoughts on State, and I know you do too, Dan, with you being a big State fan. NC State to me, and I've been saying this for years now, love Dave Doran, good coach, good recruiter, gonna get the culture right, kind of just like what we were talking about with Miami. But this guy and his offense is anemic. It's so anemic, and it's a very big problem. NC State will not get to where they want to be. And what I mean by where they want to be, that's beating Clemson on a year in and year basis, actually making the ACC title game and all that stuff, until they learn that they've got to change up that offense. And they've got to change up that offense fast, because not only is it affecting the offense, Leary is looking really bad. I mean, Leary is not having a good year. It's hurting his draft stock. None of the wide receivers are getting involved. Everything's a screen pass.
Yeah.
And they're too good defensively. They're too good defensively to keep wasting this type of defensive talent. Anybody that watched that game on Saturday, nobody was saying that NC State physically did not deserve to be on the field with Clemson. They matched up really well physically with Clemson. I mean, they showed that they deserved. But when it came to actual offense, they didn't deserve to be on the field at all. Clemson showed up and showed out, and State couldn't do anything to answer it. If State gets down against Florida State, they're screwed. They're not coming back. They have to start with the lead. It's a big problem at NC State. It really is. What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, NC State has the Texas A&M Jimbo problem, like we were talking about.
Yep.
I mean, their offense is back, like 2010s, like early times like that. It's a run pass type thing, and maybe you play action every now and then. You don't see a ton of motion out of them. They're just not very creative, and they don't get their athletes space enough. That's a big thing you got to do nowadays. You just don't see it. And NC State, you're right, Kayvon. NC State has too many athletes, too much talent on defense to be underperforming like this on offense.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, I'm real big in the draft. Leary was a big-time quarterback I was ready to watch this year. He's getting his stock tanked. Him and Van Dyke. And Van Dyke quarterback killer Mario Cristobal down there. It's not even that. Leary's in the same offense. It's just he doesn't have the time or the creativity to look good because he's not being put in a position to look good. It's kind of all on him to make the right reads in an offense that doesn't have enough of them. So I really don't like this NC State offense, like you said. Florida State kind of worries me when they play each other this week. It's going to be a big-time worry game. I worry that they're not going to be able to score enough with North Carolina later in the year either because
Wake. I don't think they have a shot against Wake.
Yeah. So you're looking at a lot of losses for a team that really came in with maybe even playoff hopes or ranked in the top 10. I think this offense has got to change. That's something they've got to look into because this NC State fan base, they're passionate, man.
They are.
They need to have a winner behind them. And there's a power vacuum right now behind Clemson, the ACC. Need to get out and grab that. I just want to see some more creativity on offense.
Great points. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are kind of going to you're alluding to some stuff I'm going to hit on too. Like, I think the lack of creativity maybe isn't Doran's fault. I think it's more like the offensive coordinator's fault, Tim Beck. This is a recurring pattern I've seen. So last season, we're obviously a really good team. They go at Mississippi State and they get down inside like the 5-yard line, and you have that triple-headed monster of running backs and an offensive line like that. And all of a sudden you abandon that and try to do some cute bullshit, dink and dunk, and you get it intercepted. And it flips the whole game. Yeah. If they had just punched in and right there, that whole place, Starkville, just goes quiet. They take a comfortable lead, and they probably go ahead and they'll move on to win the game. Instead, thanks to some shitty play calling and poor execution on just one play, the whole game is unraveled. And honestly, the season too, because when you're not Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and you have like this really tough schedule, you have to win out if you want to do anything special come the end of the season, like play in your conference title game or get to that playoff. And this team, I mean, I've been watching this team my whole life. It's the same story, just broken record, man. It's really hard being a fan of this team, honestly. It's the truth.
Yeah.
This is the last team that I'm probably backing against the spread this week. And that's a little over the top brutal statement, but because of everything you guys just hit on, and they could be in a lot of trouble here. I think Florida State is going to give them a run for their money. I think Wake's going to give them a run for their money.
Oh, I know Wake is.
I'm going to be going to the Boston College game. I'm going to be flying out there and going to the Boston College game in November, and I don't even know if I'm going to really be as excited now. It's sad, but I'll be glad to go to a game. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But, man, I was hoping that, like, they would come in, like, with only one loss or no losses in that game. And now I feel like it could easily be 2 or 3. And that's just – you're right. It's so disappointing with all the talent they have. This defense is one of the better ones in all the land. And you're right. They're just pissing on their own leg, pissing it all away by poor execution from, I would say – I don't blame the players as much. I blame the playbook and the play calling. It's just they're not figuring out like what is going to work with the personnel they have.
Yeah.
And when someone like Devin Carter is not getting the ball thrown to him enough, and there's here's the biggest thing for me. Offensively, there's just no explosive plays going on.
Yeah.
Clemson had like 11 last week. NC State had 5.
Yeah.
So they more than doubled us up on explosive plays. If you're not hitting explosive plays on offense, you're probably not going to win a lot of football games. That's just today in college football for you.
No doubt. No doubt. I think everyone hit it on the head, and I think we're seeing this across the – look, and I'm not comparing State to Alabama, but this is the same for Texas A&M. Nick Saban was in this same situation years ago, and Lane Kiffin came into town and said, we've got to change this up. You can't just have a 3-star quarterback and run power and play great defense. It's not going to work anymore. You can't do that. And Saban was like, all right, like I'm with you. Let's change it up. And they've been incredible since.
Yep.
Jimbo, I think, is way too stubborn to change. At this point in his career, I don't think he's going to change. I really do not believe that. And he's going to end up getting fired. And because of that, he will, because you cannot keep doing this. Doran, on the other hand, like Shawn said, State fans are great fan base. But one thing that State fans, and maybe this is good, they don't call for people's necks like Texas A&M. Like they're not sitting here calling for Dave Jordan's job if he goes 8-4. They're not doing that. Now they're going to get pissed off and they're going to get upset and all that stuff, but he's not feeling the pressure like some of these other are. And I'm not saying the fan base needs to change, just something needs to change to make him change. And like this, and the reason I agree, it's not Doran calling the plays, but he's got to make the decision to hire someone to change the offense. Like that goes through the head coach. He has to be willing to do that. Until he does that, until Jimbo does that, until Cristobal does that, all these teams are just going to be 8-4, 9-3, maybe occasional 10-win teams. And it's great, but it's not what you want to be in the end. So we got to see where it goes from here. A lot of great conversations tonight. This was a really fun show. To wrap it up, let's go through the there it is. Let's go through all the bets before we head on out here. Dan has Memphis, Houston over 57.5 Friday night game, ladies and gentlemen. Get that in now. San Jose State minus 6.5, another Friday night game. Get that in now. And his best bet of the week, TCU minus 6.5, or you can look at the team total over 37.5 for TCU, and that is at Kansas. Game day will be there. For me, Florida, Missouri under 55, Arizona plus 14, and App State minus 10 first half. And for Shawn, UNC plus 3.5, Washington State plus 13, and Utah minus 3.5 for his best bet of the week. Anything you guys want to add before we get on out of here?
No, I was just going to say thanks for having me on. This has been a great time. I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come talk some sports and put some bets out there with y'all.
Of course, man. We loved it. You were great. Awesome stuff. We'll be cheering. I have all your bets in the tank now, too, so I'll be cheering for those bets as well.
Easily.
We'll definitely have to have you on again. Dan, anything to say before we go on out?
Yeah, definitely. You're always welcome to come back. It's been great having you. I know we like to keep it a little closer in time, but I'm glad to go over time this week. It was worth every minute between you and our chat and everything being more interactive this week.
Totally.
Just want to say I appreciated everyone, you, Shawn, and everyone in the chat asking us whatever question, even if you're joking about Lobo football, to asking me about my favorite team, setting us up for all kinds of things. Like, we appreciate all of it. Always welcome here, and let's keep it going. Good luck this week.
No doubt. Good luck to everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. We will be putting a lot more plays out as we get to Saturday kickoff, so definitely check us out there, and we will talk to you next week. Let's win some money.
See ya.